Hello. I'm writing a book at the moment, so today's question is how to write as profoundly as possible. So when I say as profoundly as possible, I mean, sort of drawing from a deepest wisdom as possible for me. So I just want to get some insight on how I can do that, because clearly I want to write my book so that it sort of stands up as long as it can, if you know what I mean. I think inevitably I will look back on this book when it's done at some time in the future, and I'll be more wise, and I'll be able to sort of see things differently, and I'll think, I need to write another one, or if I was to write that book now, I would have said things a little differently because I just have a deeper understanding now. So I want to be able to sort of step as deep into my understanding as I can now, so that it stands up longer before I sort of start having that type of feeling. So I really want to know is how can you write from a place of deep wisdom? So you're in the deep, seated in the deep wisdom, and then you can write in a way which is profound rather than superficial. I hope you get that. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Right, so let's see what we got. Greetings and thank you for the question. How to write as profoundly as possible. Let us start by saying that the writing that you would do if you wish to write from a place of deep wisdom is just one of the many ways that your profundity can be expressed. Of course, it can be done through the way that you communicate, the way that you emote, the way that you create, and even these can be broken down further. For example, the way that you create. It can be your art, it can be your development of solutions, it can be the way you cook. It can be the creative way that you interact with other people, with the social arena you find yourself in. So profundity can give rise to much sophistication and nuance in way of being. So we make this point because we wish to illustrate that just as there is many ways that your profundity can be expressed, there also are many ways in which your profundity can be deepened. Just as the boxer, for example, to increase his skill in his chosen sport, he will practice boxing, he will spar with opponents, training opponents. However, he will also run, he will also skip, he will also do gym work, he will also do speedball work, he will do many different techniques, all of them with the intent to increase his capacity to box. So, similarly, if you wish to be able to write more profoundly, then it's not just a matter of writing more and more and more to develop this ability, but it can be enhanced if you were to break it down as such, or come at it from multiple different angles, so that you are developing the capacity to be profound in a holistic way. Your profundity or your depth of wisdom, your your connection with deep truths, understandings, universality is really a connection with your extra dimensionality. It is an expansion into the parts of you which are intangible, into the invisible, into the higher self realm. That part of you which is the first iteration of the one. First iteration of the fractal occurring within the one. It is the first iteration of the pattern, which is the singularity, which is you. And by this we mean you are a group being as the one is a group being. This is the fractal nature of existence. And so the ultimate expanded iteration of the fractal is the one. And then there are smaller iterations of the same fractal within the one. And so you are a group being yourself, being a collection of the consciousnesses of the cells within your body, forming the group being which is you. And then you are a single unit within the group being which is the humanity being, and so on and so on. However, this version which is you, which you describe as you, this is the singularity which is you. This is the uniqueness which is you. It is the single being which is you. This is the first iteration of the fractal which extends all the way to the one, which is you, which is the singularity of you. Now we make this point to say it is the singularity of you, because if you are a unit within the group being, which is the humanity being, then you are also the humanity being. It is also you. But it is not the singularity which is you. And the humanity being is part of the group being, a single unit within the group being, which is the earth being. So, you also are the earth being. This is an iteration of the fractal, which is also you. But it is not the singularity, which is you. The singularity, which is you, could be most accurately described in the words that are available as the higher self. And so, your capacity for wise profundity is an expansion into the higher self, into the singularity which is you. And expanding into the singularity which is you, into the higher self, into your infinity, is also an expansion into the humanity being, which is an expansion into the earth being, which is an expansion into the solar system being, and so on and so on and so on, until it is an expansion into the one. All of these are occurring simultaneously. So, the focal point for this intention to have greater access to your wise profundity is an expansion into the singularity which is you. That iteration of the fractal, which is the singularity of you, into the higher self. So all pursuits which are an exploration of your extra dimensionality are going to increase your capacity for wise profundity, and as such your ability to write in a profound way. So the obvious one to begin with is meditation. Being in a state where the mind is silent and you are aware as the presence. This is higher self-awareness while in the avatar. We shall repeat, when the mind is silent and yet you are still self-aware as a presence in the silence. This is higher self-presence. This is higher self-awareness. And in this state, where you allow yourself to be present as this in the silence, there is an expansion. And this is an expansion into the self, into the iteration of the fractal, which is the singularity, which is you. And this is an expansion into wisdom. Because in a sense, this is what you are. You are wisdom. You are infinite. And therefore all is contained within, all understanding. All there is to be known is contained within. And so an expansion into self is an expansion into more of what there is to be understood, to be realized, to be remembered, to be revealed. Because ultimately you are the one. And so all is already contained within you. So your expansion in understanding is actually a revelation of what you already are. It is the folding back of the petal to reveal what has always been present. So, while in meditation, in a state of mind silence, to incrementally accelerate the effect of becoming more profound through meditation, then there are techniques you can use during your meditation session. And we will give you one right now. When you are deep in meditation, in a state of mind silence and relaxation, explore your infinity in both directions. Because there is the infinitely small and there is the infinitely large. And as the infinite being, you are existing in both of these ways. The infinitely small is within you, as is the infinitely large. So as an exercise, imagine that you are looking at your hand, and then that you are looking at the cells of your hand, and then you are looking at the atoms which make up the cells of the hand, and then you're looking at the subatomic particles which make up the atom, and then the subatomic particles, and then the subatomic particles, and so on and so on and so on. Because as your scientists will discover, and some cutting-edge theoretical physicists are already postulating, is that there is no smallest particle. Because this is the fractal nature of the one. Everything within the one is a group being. And this means even the subatomic particle is divisible into another subatomic particle, which is divisible into yet another, and another, and another, and another, and another, infinitum. So every particle in existence has an infinity of particles within it. Because every particle in existence, everything in existence, is a group being. So, in this practice, follow the path to the infinitely small, yet more and more divisions, yet division, yet division, yet division. The infinitely divisible particle. And follow this, accelerating, 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 seeing the particles within the particle, and then the particles within that particle, and then the particles within that particle, and on and on and on, accelerating, 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 travelling at the speed of light, beyond the speed of light. And then maintain this rapidity racing towards the infinitely small at an infinite speed. And then change direction and travel from the infinitely small towards the infinitely large. And see that the infinitely small particle that you have had your attention on is contained within a larger particle, which is contained within a larger particle, which is contained within a larger particle, and so on and so on and so on, travelling again at the speed of light. Get larger and larger and larger and larger and larger, faster than the speed of light. Till eventually you arrive back at the atom. And then that atom is within the cell of your hand. And then you can see that the hand is yours. And that you are in the room, which you are in the city, and then expanding out, you are in your state, in your country, on planet Earth, in the solar system, and in this region of the cosmos, containing the solar system, expanding to the size of the galaxy, then beyond the galaxy, and then all galaxies, then on and on and on until travelling at the speed of light, beyond the speed of light, to the infinitely larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And you can see that expanding at this infinite speed, there are two layers. There is the outer layer, which is the one, also expanding at an infinite speed. And within the one is you, also expanding at an infinite speed. And maintain this, accelerating side by side with the one, expanding infinitely into the infinite space. And then, after having held this for some time, come out of the meditation, or move the meditation into a different phase. But do not return back to the body. At the end of this practice, and while in the infinitely expanded state, shift to a new part of the meditation or come out of the meditation when in the infinitely expanded state. And doing this regularly as a practice will incrementally expand who you are. It will expand you into your extra dimensionality. So that the self-concept will be less avatar, mind, body, personality, and more of the extra dimensionality that you are, more of the higher self-awareness. And over time, if this practice is done regularly, you will incrementally transition to a self-identity composition, which is more and more increasingly so higher self-awareness, higher self-perspective, drawing from, in your every moment, your extra dimensionality. And this is synonymous with being more wise, more profound, which will be reflected in your writing. So, using the metaphor we started with, where the boxer does many different things outside of actually competing in the ring. And so competing in the ring is you actually writing, but then outside of that there are the things that you can do which create a holistic capacity to do the writing well. So we have the meditation, and now we recommend that you adapt, incorporate practices into your daily life which draw upon your extra dimensionality. So these are practices which can be done only by utilizing the part of you which is extra dimensional. So it is not a utilization of the mind as the source, but instead the extra dimensionality of self is the source. And so these are things like doing readings for other people, doing channelings, remote viewing, automatic writing. These types of activities necessitate drawing upon your extra dimensionality, drawing upon the part of you which is intangible, which is not the avatar, but what exists beyond the avatar. So, if in your regimen of activities, which you do on a regular basis, include some of these activities, then this is an expansion into your extra dimensionality. And your extra dimensionality is essentially your profundity. It is where your wisdom lay. So, there will be a twofold effect from participating more in these activities. The first effect shall be that you are a more expanded being. So in every moment, in every circumstance, you have a larger bubble of self-awareness. So you can imagine that you are the infinite being. And yet your awareness of your infinity is finite. And the degree of expansion, the size of your bubble, is how much of your profundity is included in your awareness. And so the larger this bubble is, then the more of your profundity which is included, which means the more you're able to speak and behave and write in a profound way, in a way which is steeped in wisdom. And as you do these activities, which more and more push you into this expanded state, which place your attention or your call for resources on the frontier of your awareness, then you will consequentially expand into more of your profundity, more of your infinity. And then in your everyday moments, you will be able to bring this into the moment as your presence, and then also onto the page via your writing. The second way that participating in these activities, essentially experimenting with utilizing your extra dimensionality in the ways it is available to you, such as readings, channeling, and so on, is that you will have a literal reception of information which can be later used in your writing. So when you are channeling, you will find that you will say things, that you will arrive at understandings which in the past have not been available to you in your normal state. And these things that you say, from the profound capacities which are available to you when you are in the channeling state, will be retained and then available to you to be utilized in your writing. Similarly, when you do readings for another, if you approach the reading in the way that we have recommended in the previous channel, where you come to a place of as much resolution of the past traumas and experiences that you had in your life, so that you can go into the connection with the person you're doing the reading for with a very defined and strong geometry which glows into their space, so you can see them when you connect in a very deep and empathic way. You will inevitably not only see into them, but see into self, and bring forth new understanding, new realization, new epiphany, which may not have been available to you prior to these reading experiences. And again, this is something which is available to you when you do your writing. So, if you wish to write profoundly, then condition yourself to be profound. Consider yourself to be an athlete of profundity. And so, behave as such. Condition yourself to have an increased capacity to write from a place of deep wisdom by utilizing and exploiting your extra dimensionality from multiple perspectives, in multiple different ways. Calling upon it, utilizing it to do different things, so it becomes robust. And you then have this spillover, an overlap, where one way that you have been utilizing your extra dimensionality has a spillover into the other ways that it can be utilized. So you have a holistic growth in your capacities. And consequential to all of this will be an increased capacity to write, an increased capacity to reach deeply into yourself, into your wisdom, and place upon the page information which is of a greater meaningfulness than was available to you when your only methodology for becoming more profound was to write. You are an infinite being, infinitely expanding. So it is inevitable that what you write now will be a less profound version than perhaps what you would write a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So, keep in mind that you are a work in project, a work in process. And not only are you a work in progress, but also is the humanity being a work in progress, and the earth being a work in progress, and so on and so on and so on, until ultimately the one is a work in progress, as the one returns to a state of completion, when it knows itself experientially to completion. So it is not only an expectation that what you write now will be not as profound as what you can write later. It is an intentional part of the design that it is this way. So, it is not necessary to become too hung up on how profound you can be. If you are a devotee to self-expansion, to understanding, to exploring your extra dimensionality, then this is sufficient. This is the path of growth that you intended for yourself when you decided to be incarnated into this life cycle. And if you wish that your writing stand up to the test of time and to be as relevant as possible, then these practices we have shared with you will contribute to this design outcome very potently. And you will find that you'll be able to write in a way which is wisely profound, in a way beyond what you felt was your capacity to do so. Humanity is yet to understand what it is. The human vehicle, the Earth human vehicle, has many latent capacities which, from the perspective of the unawakened human being right now, are amazing, are incredible, are difficult to believe. Because the Earth human, even those that are steeped in a high degree of confidence, still are very underestimating and unaware of their actual capacities that have been deliberately engineered into the design of the human genome. There is much yet to be discovered. In fact, we would say you still are mostly undiscovered. The functionality of the avatar that you have incarnated into is really quite extraordinary. And this is the beginning of the discovery of what those capacities are. And so if you are to explore these capacities, such as doing readings for another, doing channelings, remote viewing, and so on, then you will discover that no matter who you are, you have a capacity for it. You seem to have some innate ability to do this. So it is not a gamble. It is not a roulette where perhaps I can do it, perhaps I'm not. Am I one of the lucky ones? Will I discover that I have been fortunate enough to be one of the rare individuals that can do this? Or will I be disappointed and discover it has been a waste of time, a fruitless pursuit? This will not be the experience, because it is an innate ability by design in every Earth human. These capacities lay latent because they are not explored. The Earth human at this time lives in a cultural understanding which has been deliberately created to diminish your interest and eradicate any concept of self which goes beyond the avatar, which extends into the extra-dimensional realm. Because this extra-dimensional capacity is beyond the scope of control of the elite, the Cabal, that have dominated the earth for a very long time. And so they have engineered a society and a understanding within the human species on earth that it is a being of density, is a being which does not extend beyond what can be seen in the mirror. And so there is no curiosity about what exists beyond the reflection seen in the mirror. And yet, with even just the slightest curiosity, transforming into a experimental interest, where you begin to play with these capacities, there will be the inevitable discovery by anybody who tries this that they have the gift. But of course, it is not a gift as such, which infers or implies that it is something which is unique and has been given to you, yet not others. But instead you will discover, or the discovery will be, the realization of a human birthright, of an endowment by virtue of being incarnated into an earth human avatar. This time, where it becomes commonly known, is approaching. When the Cabal has been removed and the benevolence of the humanity being is allowed to express through groups, organisations and the individual, there will be a natural curiosity about the extra-dimensional nature of each individual, which will be supported and promoted by the infrastructure of the new paradigm human society, which will purposefully create scenarios where there is exploration of these capacities. Because coming from these capacities will be a greatly enhanced ability to bring about an earth human paradigm unparalleled even in the imagination. So, similar to how there is the cloud, which is networked and utilised to fulfill an expanded objective. The human field, the extra dimensionality of the human field, will be networked and awoken to its interwoven, integrated tapestry as the humanity being, and then utilised as a processing power, as a manifesting power, as an creative power, which is far beyond what has been possible in the past, where these were individual characteristics rather than the combined characteristic of the group being, of the humanity being. And once this expanded capacity is awoken and utilised, then the consequences in the human field will be dramatic. So to take this full circle, the desire to write more profoundly is the stimulus for a much broader objective, the awakening of the human being, to bring about the new paradigm for the human species. And so, occurring now on this planet are many such as yourself who are finding that they wish to be creative in a more elaborate way. They wish to be able to communicate with others in a more awakened way, who wish to be able to solve conundrums, find solutions in a more unlimited way. Because there is the birthing of this awareness that there is more than what occurs, what is seen in the mirror. And this germination of this concept that I can do more than I thought that I could, because I have this growing awareness there is more of self that I'm aware. This is the awakening of the humanity being. This is the humanity being becoming self-aware. And although still, for many, it is experienced in an individual way, it is me, the individual, that wants to write more profoundly. It is me, the individual, that wants to be able to solve problems in a more unlimited way. It is me, the individual, that wants to create in an ethereal and sublime way. But over time, the gaze of the individual will look up and see the commonality amongst all of these aspects of the humanity being, every other human, and realize it is not their individual awakening or the other's individual awakening, but it is the awakening of the group being that they are. And this awakening of the group being will harness all of these capacities to write, to create, to solve problems, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, into a single capacity, a single organism, the humanity being. And this combined capacity, you can see, will be powerful beyond the experience which has occurred before on this planet. It will be a complete new paradigm of existence. And from this, the golden age will emerge. An age which is reflective of this global harnessing of the extra dimensionality of each individual into a single unified force. The force and the power of the single being, of the humanity being. And this humanity being will also have within its understanding the realization it is a part of the earth being, that it is fully integrated into this larger being as its sentience. And the humanity being and the earth being, fully realizing that they are the same being, will bring about conditions within the earth field which are heavenly, which are unprecedented. It will be the massive organism, the earth, the humanity being, earthlings, all of nature, integrated into the single tapestry, the one being, behaving as the one being. So it is easy to extrapolate from this understanding when it is no longer just an individual trying to accomplish something, or a small team of people trying to accomplish something, or perhaps even a company are trying to accomplish something. Instead, it will be an entire planet and every organism on it, especially its awakened sentience, the humanity being comprised of every human which has made this transition. The capacity for profundity, for dramatic transformation will be incredible. Will make the earth a rare gem within existence. And it will pulsate waves of energy into the cosmos, into the galaxy, across the universe, which carry with it a unique and distinct energetic signature, which spreads love and symphonic vibration across all of existence. This is where it is all heading. And so the chaos and the disintegration you see now is but a phase on the way to this magnificence we describe. So we encourage you to explore your extra dimensionality, to see in what ways you can be expressive of that which is intangible and yet so real, and yet the part of you which is the everything, which integrates you into the one organism. We will continue to mentor you and coach you along this path. But in closing, let us say that we are more than pleased with the progress that has been made. Already, you have surpassed what was once thought possible. There was a time when many had lost hope that the Earth experiment could be turned around and taken to a place of completion, so that the next phase, which we have just described, could be initiated. And yet, despite the challenges and despite the opportunists who usurped the experiment and who did their best to end its progress and lock down the planet as a realm of darkness for all time that shall never ascend, even this was overcome. So while there are challenges faced now, and there will be more challenges to come, some of them seemingly intolerable, think of it as the churning of the flower bed, so that the seeds of the new paradigm can take root, germinate, grow, and then eventually blossom. This is where you are at. And if you, the individual, wish to also be part of this blossom, then become more and more and more expanded into your extra dimensionality. You identify less and less and less with the avatar and be a being which holds a state of love and its derivatives, and act as such. Be the benevolent, radiant being in your life, so that when the time comes for ascension, you are harvested. And many of those around you across the human field, in all reaches of the planet, will be more likely to be included in this harvest, because your energetic vibration has been a contribution to their elevation, to the awakening of the humanity being, for the loving ascension into the new paradigm, where our kinship will be known in a new way. We love you, and we thank you.